morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard this morning here as another week of fun and frolic gets underway here. It's Monday. We're halfway through the month of July.
Yes.
A little better than that. Well, almost anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, a little better than halfway. So,
wow.
17th day.
Pretty quick. Yes, pretty quick. It feels like it was just
zipping
May.
right along. Mm-hmm.
Well, and thank you to everyone who showed up to the event that the Republican Party had this weekend. It was a great turnout. So many good Republicans. Everyone just having fun. We had some hamburgers, some hot dogs, and we just, enjoyed the lovely weather. It was a little hot. We had a little bit of clouds, which helped, and a little bit of a breeze. But the people that came out, a lot of people I'd never met before. So very exciting for the Republican Party here in Chatham County. So I just wanted to thank everyone because I know I haven't talked a ton about the GOP because I want to try and keep things separate. But I will say that it was a really good day for Chatham County Republicans on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you can consider what's going on around some places around the rest of the country as far as heat and rain goes. We consider ourselves very fortunate here.
Yes, absolutely.
We see some washouts there, Connecticut, and the Northeast is just getting walloped. So our prayers go with them and anybody that wants to help. There are all sorts of volunteer organizations. And once again, we always remind you, and I know that we're probably preaching to the choir here, but don't give to the organizations the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, AmeriCares, places like that. Don't give to, all of a sudden, Joe's Connecticut resurfacing or something like that. That's probably not the best one because Joe's going to get a lot of money, but nobody else is.
Correct. So, last week here in our county, we had a hearing at the school board for the millage rate, which is not going, they're keeping it the same.
Mm-hmm. Bless their hearts.
Well, but I think they're falsely representing it. And one of our favorites, Beth Maggioroni, was at that school board meeting, and she definitely let them know that they weren't really representing it the right way.
Yeah.
I am Beth Maggioroni, and am speaking today as a taxpayer and a retired educator. Taxpayers across the city are being potentially misled by most on the Savannah Chatham School Board into thinking that the fiscal year 24 school board budget approved by the board isn't increasing their taxes because the school board isn't asking for a millage rate increase. The school system budget is based on two numbers or levers that work together to create an increase in the school board budget: the property tax increase due to inflation and the change in millage rate. To keep property taxes the same for all of us as what we paid last year, the school board should be requesting a full rollback of what's called the millage rate, which would balance out the fact that our property values have increased by approximately 10% due to inflation. Fortunately, the state property taxpayer Bill of Rights requires the school board to advertise this lack of a rollback as a tax increase and hold 3 public meetings, today being the third of these, to protect the taxpayers from being misled by this backdoor property tax increase that might be missed when the school board only talks about the millage rate change. By not rolling back the millage rate, the proposed tax increase for a home with fair market value of $250,000 is approximately $157 more per year than last year. You can do the math to figure out your own house value and what that means in dollars. While the impact of this decision to not roll back the millage rate impacts all citizens of Chatham County, most hard hit are the fixed and low-income residents, whether you are a property owner or not. If you rent, the impact gets passed on to you by your landlord by raising your rent. As an example, for many school board members or employees who live paycheck to paycheck and are promised a 5% cost of living increase within the proposed fiscal year budget, ironically, part of their salary increase will be eaten up by the property tax increase needed to fund their own raises. Further, school board members who voted to approve the budget recently tried to support their refusal to roll back the millage rate by suggesting that because other school districts have higher millage rates, Savannah Chatham County is underfunded. What they don't tell you is that the millage rate must be higher in many other counties across the state as their property values haven't increased as much as those in this resort area. For historical background, in 2021, the school board requested a full rollback. In 2022, a partial rollback. In 2023, they are proposing no rollback of the millage rate at all. We, the taxpayers, demand a full rollback of the millage rate this year to keep our property taxes from increasing. Taxpayers, please take note of who votes to approve maintaining the current millage rate today and vote them out at the next school board election next year. Thank you.
Didn't get thrown out this time.
No.
Wasn't carried out of the meeting. They let her actually speak her 2 or 3 minutes.
Well, I think that's the weird thing about what happened to Beth last week, which was a week ago today, which feels like a whirlwind, but she has spoken at the school board every month for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
She's spoken against masks, against the, kids not being in school. I mean, the pornographic books that they have in our schools. And so I think for her to be thrown out of the Board of Elections because she is such an experienced speaker in a public setting, I think that that's also what's caused a lot of outrage. And I will tell you, there were a lot of Republicans on Saturday that were still talking about it and were very upset with what happened. So,
they should be. Just everybody should be upset about what happened, to tell you the truth.
Well, people feel, I did speak to some people that disagreed with my opinion on it. And they said that, they feel like Beth should have listened to the police officers and she should have just done what she was told. But she wasn't wrong. So, once someone puts something in place, like the chairman, once he made that decision, that's what decided the chain of events. Beth didn't do that. He did that.
Exactly.
So we'll have Beth on the show later this week to kind of go through some of that, as well as some of the stuff going on with the school board.
Yeah. In fact, and I want to give kudos to my good friend Dawn Baker, who was one of the anchors at WTOC, the CBS affiliate here. And I sent her a message saying that the media here has gotten this story wrong for the most part, that Beth was given permission to speak, no matter what. If Georgia law says you can't speak at at one of the Board of Elections meeting, why were 15 people given permission to speak? And if the chairman said we only have an hour to meet, 15 people times 3 minutes is 45 minutes. I mean, that's going to take up the entire, all but 15 minutes of the board meeting. So none of this stuff makes a lot of sense. But I said to Dawn, I said, Beth was given permission to speak. She was interrupted less than a minute into her presentation, and then she was physically removed. I think almost brutally removed. And you could hear from the policeman's body cams that "you're hurting me," as they're carrying her out like a hammock, and a woman in a skirt. So this goes beyond the pale, and people should be speaking out against it. And Dawn told me that she had gotten in touch with Beth. Beth got in touch with Dawn, and they're going to have an interview on that basis as well. So.
Very good. I hope they set the record straight.
I hope so too. And we're going to set it. We've been setting it straight. And we're going to have Beth with us later this week.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot going on. I believe that you were able to sit down with Buddy Carter last week sometime and talk about what's going on with our border.
Yeah, among other things.
We're having an uptick in carjackings in Washington, D.C. So what did they do? They reduced it from a felony to a misdemeanor. That makes all kind of sense, doesn't it? Yeah. City Council voted on that. Even the mayor opposed it. We reversed it because in Congress we have control over Washington, D.C. and responsibility over Washington, D.C. And the president even agreed with that. So at least he understands a little bit of it, or at least the people around him understand a little bit of it. But listen, we got a serious problem in this country right now with crime, and I'm very, very concerned about that. The southwest border, the amount of fentanyl that's coming across that border, killing over 200 Americans every day. This is an epidemic right now.
Yeah. What is? Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel here? Because it's. I mean, I'm really worried that with all the open borders and everything else, what's going to happen?
I am too, and that's the one thing that has got to happen. We've got to secure that border. A country without borders is not a country at all. Do I see a light at the end of the tunnel? I see a light at the end of the tunnel in 2 years. I don't know who our candidate's going to be, but we have got to win.
And what about this indictment of the president? It shows that we're not a country of laws anymore.
Well, it does. I mean, here you have a district attorney who has decreased or thrown out half of the felonies and reduced them to misdemeanors, and yet he is prosecuting, and it sure does reek of political prosecution. Now, I don't know the specifics of it, but it just does not pass the smell test.
And by the way, congratulations. I understand that Narcan is not going to be over the counter. You've been fighting for that.
Yes, we have, and that is good news, and I applaud the FDA for what they've done. I'm often critical of them, but in this case, they did the right thing, and I applaud them for that.
Well, God bless you. Keep up the great work. Thanks,
Thank
buddy.
you. Good.
And Buddy, a pharmacist by trade, for those who don't know, so he is quite familiar with things like fentanyl and what these drugs can do and how they interact with each other.
Yeah, and there are so many problems in our country right now, and I think you're starting to see this pattern. And we have a huge trafficking issue at the border.
Mm-hmm.
87,000 children have come across the border, and you don't even have to come to pick the kid up at the border. It will be delivered to the handler by our taxpayer money.
We have DoorDash, now we have Kid Dash.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, well, I'll be damned.
And a lot of these kids are under the age of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Why is a child under the age of 5 coming to our border by themselves?
Yeah. Have they felt threatened? Are they asking for asylum?
Yeah, Bill, Americans need to wake up. I don't care if you think that we should, let everyone into our country. We cannot do this. We are guilty of allowing children to be trafficked. We're all guilty. We're all paying for it. I don't know what it's going to take for people to wake up and start pushing back on our government, because our government is not representing the people or our values as a country.
Are a lot of those people coming from El Salvador saying how tough it is down there, how threatened they are? Congratulations to Holland. I know this sounds like the running broad jump, but congratulations to Holland for sending a man to the Miss Universe pageant. Yeah. And the Miss Universe pageant is going to be held in El Salvador. Okay, can you explain to me why that things are so bad in El Salvador? They have to have they can have the Miss Universe pageant there, but people are fleeing the country to come here because they feel threatened.
Yeah, well,
things that make you go,
Well, did you see the I think she's the French, she's either the Italian or the French prime minister, but she started talking about the immigrants coming into their country, and she's like, we should not be trying to bring them into our country. We should start helping them
in their country.
Yes, and to live off the land, because a lot of in Africa, there's a lot of places where people are held in slavery for. I don't know. I think that there's this thing called cobalt that they're mining. Mm-hmm. I don't know what we need that for, but
part of the batteries and stuff for these coal burners that we're building here.
Exactly. So I think that there's so much that goes into this, and the border is one of the biggest problems that could help resolve a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and going after our own oil would also help a lot of things as well.
Yep.
Just say it. All right, coming up next.
We'll be talking about the Sound of Freedom, some good news there. And we'll also be talking about some of this presidential candidate stuff. I mean, it's getting wild.
It is. And also a lawsuit that's been settled. We'll talk about that next. At Get Real America, we are focused on Savannah, but we'd like to hear from other communities as well. We have a lot in common.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding? Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard here on this here Monday morning. Getting ready for another week, as we say, of fun and frolic. Parker's Corporation has settled with the family of Mallory Beach for $15 million in a wrongful death lawsuit, according to the attorney for the Beach family. I don't know why this was Parker's fault, but Mallory Beach was killed tragically in 2019 in a boat wreck in Beaufort County. At the time, the boat was being driven by Paul Murdaugh, who has since murdered his son, convicted killer Alex Murdaugh. Investigators say it's a surveillance video shows Paul buying alcohol with his brother, Buster's license, the night of the crash at Parker's convenience store. Well, there are a lot of Parker's convenience stores, and there are a lot of people who work in these places who don't know who the Murdaughs are. Frankly, I didn't know who the Murdaughs were until all of this stuff broke loose about 3 years ago. Investigators say that with all this surveillance cameras, okay, well, so what? This guy had a false ID. The person who's working there says, okay, all right, so here's the beer. The attorney for the Beach family says that other occupants of the boat also settled claims against Parker's, including several others, Anthony Cook, Connor Cook, and Miley Altman. Once again, I don't see how this is Parker's fault. The guy that was driving the boat, who was highly intoxicated, is the one who is at fault and at part of the Murdaugh family. The money ought to be coming from them and not from Parker's.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any money left with the Murdaugh family, and maybe that's potentially why.
Well, sell some property or something. I don't think there was any money left with O.J. Simpson either, but they hit him for a bundle either, yeah.
Yeah, I think that when people are in these situations, I think they want accountability for everyone, which I understand, but I was kind of surprised to hear that Parker's was sued, but you can sue anyone for anything these days.
That's true. Yeah. When there's a plane crash, for example, it might be pilot error. It might be some sort of mechanical problem. It could be something wrong with the engines. But for example, when the lawsuits are filed, they will file it against Boeing. They'll file it against General Electric or Pratt & Whitney or whoever built the engines, all of which could have nothing to do with what caused the plane to crash. But everybody gets sued. So that's where we stand in today's life of suing as a national pastime.
Yeah, well, I wish Savannah still had their rules about lawyers, but what do you do? We have some people with us this morning. Lizzie says Democrat voters own the trafficking at our voter. I don't know what that means. At our voter, they hired the man who threw it wide open. Oh, they own that because they voted for Joe Biden.
Yeah,
got it.
Right.
Steve Stanton Sr., you got a better response live than I got in writing from Buddy on the indictment question. He gave me the old canned response. Nobody is above the law, but he says to you basically something fishy going on with Bragg, the DA. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Steve Stanton also brought up, well, after Friday in Iowa with Tucker, 2 candidates are gone, Pence and Asa Hutchinson.
Even though we were probably on the verge of Asa Hutchinson mania.
Yeah, I don't think so. The other thing is, we don't have the clip, but I will say the fact that Pence, when he answered a question, I don't know that he meant it, but the soundbite is there and it is bad for him. He was only polling at like less than 1% anyways. I think that that's the funny thing about these primaries and, and all these people jumping into the race. They're not polling well and they're not going to. Like Pence was never going to get above 1%. Like, let's be honest.
Well, tell him what he said.
Well, he said, that it's not his problem. All the havoc and everything happening in our cities, and it's not his problem, but that we need to be the global power. We can do both because he's very much in favor of giving Ukraine whatever they want.
Yeah, this is makes no sense. Let's protect Ukraine's border, but don't protect ours. What?
Yes. Well, and I think the other thing is what's happening in this country is that people are sick of giving their tax money for it to be given away to other
Hmm.
countries, and we're not getting what we need in our own country. So there's populism both on the left and the right, which I think is interesting. So there is a lot of agreement. Maybe we don't agree on how that money should be spent, but we do agree that it should not be going overseas. Um,
We have the movie's out right now. I want to see Oppenheimer, the father of the bomb, the atomic bomb, and it's also a Fox Nation. I don't care what you care about, think about Fox, but Fox Nation is one of the best websites in the world for documentaries and in depth. Brett Baer's has a great series on the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and I just finished a series that Kelsey Grammer did on Battles for America. It starts with he does three on those on the Revolutionary War. He does two on the Civil War and one on the Little Bighorn. It is just and also the Alamo. Great stuff. And but Oppenheimer is the guy that invented or is responsible for developing the atomic bomb. But we didn't know it was going to work or not. But we were in a big arms race. The Nazis, that Hitler came very close to having an atomic bomb. And there's also a great story about that of these heroes that actually went in and destroyed what was called the heavy water plant. Heavy water is part of what you need for a nuclear weapon, and they destroyed this plant that was built and it was in Norway, and these guys went in and destroyed this place, and they quite literally perhaps saved the world. And but the fact that Oppenheimer came up with the concept of how this was going to take place, and literally save the world from that standpoint. As long as it's in the hands of good people, what we're worried about now is being in the hands of bad people. And but you can't unring a bell. We need these weapons, and that was called the Manhattan Project. It was super secret during the Second World War, Brittany, of getting all these people together to build this weapon. We need the same sort of thing right now with our ammunition supplies. Very few companies make the ammunition that we have in our military, and the President of the United States just committed treason by telling the world that we're short on supplies, but we're sending most of what we have over to Ukraine. This is disgusting. This is dangerous. This is a threat to our security. That we need to have plenty of ammunition, and we need to have it now. Unfortunately, we don't. And they said it's going to take us at least 5 years now to recover if we started today to get back to where we were before the Ukraine war started a year and a half ago.
Well, and I didn't think we were going to jump into this, but I have to say something about him calling over 3,000 of the reserves out on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a huge issue. They have not come to the floor and said, hey, there needs to be a wartime presentation going on.
Exactly.
They have not gotten approval to be involved in this. They just keep doing it. And it's unconstitutional. They should not be allowed to do what they're doing.
Exactly.
They should have to come and explain, what is your plan for this? Because they don't have a plan except for dishing out more weapons, giving them as much money as they can, and leaving the Americans with the bill.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he's allowed to do that. How can you call out the Army Reserves and yet you've not gone to Congress?
Because they're not. This is an administration that's not paying any attention to the Constitution.
Well, and we're not holding them accountable. That's
Exactly.
the other thing.
Yeah,
no
that's
one's talking about it. No one is talking about it. And,
We are.
well, I'm kind of upset. Fox has a big audience still. I'm not a fan of Fox. I will never give them a dime, and I will never watch any of their programming. And I know that you do, but I feel very strongly about that. I think that they've spit on their viewers and also, the conservatives. But that's a real shame about Fox Nation, just so you know. I think that they probably do some pretty great things, but a lot of people will never see it because of what they've done to their brand. But why are they not talking about this stuff? They're, some of the reporting that they're doing is kind of lackluster, in my opinion. Like, we need to be more aggressive about this war stuff. And it's because we have way too many war hawks in the Republican Party that want to continue to give money to this Ukraine war that we don't even really know what's going on.
No accountability as to where those weapons are going, what they're doing with them, or anything else. people were saying we need to send. I think this is also what Pence said. We need to send them more tanks,
Yeah.
more American tanks. No, we don't.
No, we actually we don't have the ability. We need to stop.
We should have sent them that to begin with. When all the saber rattling was going on at the border, when Putin was having all those exercises, we should have been sending stuff in then.
Well, and in my opinion, it's like we should not get involved in things that do not concern us.
Exactly.
There's no reason except for the fact that our president currently has been involved with the Ukraine stuff way before, and the only reason they went after Trump is because a lot of them are involved in it. And one of the things, so Steve Stanton says Pence is not my concern. Pence, he said, it's not my concern twice. And why have the 25th Amendment if never used? Correct. And Lizzie Warren says, I blocked Fox after November 2020. You know, I don't know what it's going to take, but I do feel like people are getting upset. The fact that our funding is going to Ukraine. There's also huge trafficking issues in Ukraine. And there is a new, we'll get into the Sound of Freedom in just a minute, but there is a new movie about trafficking. It's a documentary, and this is the one that Mel Gibson is involved in. And Mel Gibson has been involved with Tim Ballard. And so there was some confusion about him being involved with the Sound of Freedom, but he actually has his own. I believe it comes out in December. But it talks about how wartime is harvest season for these human traffickers because kids are losing their families. And where do they go? Into the arms of traffickers. And it's really disgusting what they're doing. So anyways.
Meanwhile.
Yeah. Back to the presidential stuff. There actually was Turning Point Action was this weekend. And one of the straw polls was the question around who would you like to see be president? Of course, 85%, and granted these are a lot of younger conservatives that are going to this, say Donald Trump. Do you know who the second choice was?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
It sure was. Vivek is coming up in the polls rather quickly. People like what he's saying. They like what he's doing. And
he's a firebrand. He's a force of nature.
Yes. And well, people like him because he's very plain spoken. He was actually on, have you heard of Charlemagne the God?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he was on that show over the weekend. Yeah. Well, I think he had the perfect answer to him. And I think that this is why people are falling in love with Vivek Ramaswamy.
I can absolutely blame white supremacy. 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
See, say more, and then I'll respond to that.
I mean, just look at the history of the country. Like, it's really just that simple for me. The country has never fulfilled its promises of freedom, liberty, and justice for all. It's always been freedom, liberty, and justice for some. And usually that some is white people.
So here's what I would say in response to that. That is obviously true that the nation has fallen short of our promise since our founding. But walk through some obvious facts about America. We're not founded on an ethnicity or a monarch or a food or even a religion. We're founded on a set of ideals that brought a group of people together in 1776, and we live by those ideals. At least we aspire to those ideals today. A nation that aspires to ideals that's not made up of gods, but made up of human beings, will always fall short of those ideals. So I think our worst hypocrisies as a country, and we have many of them, our worst hypocrisies are our best evidence that we have ideals at all. You take a look at other countries. Nobody ever calls the Chinese Communist Party a hypocrite, or China a hypocrite, or Iran a hypocrite. Why is that? Because to be a hypocrite, you at least had to have ideals in the first place.
But a lot of
and so we're imperfect, but we are about the pursuit of a more perfect union, the pursuit of happiness. America's about the pursuit. And so I think that trashing ourselves, I think we are, actually.
The reason I say that is because, we never were included in those ideals originally.
Originally. Yeah. But never and not originally are two different things. Originally, that's true. Over 250 years of progress, if you had somebody who was in 1870 looking at the world we live in today, if you had somebody in 1960 who was looking at the world we live in today as it relates to race in America, we would be darn close to what they would have thought of as the promised land. So I think we have to recognize that America is about that pursuit. We're a lot further along than we were 250 years ago. And here's the other thing, too. We got to set our expectations. We will always fall short of our ideals. By definition, if there are human beings and not gods living in a nation that aspires to ideals, we are fallen. Man is fallen. That's what makes us who we are. But what also makes us different from animals is that we have ideals. So America's founded on our humanity. that we can believe and aspire to something that we will still fall short of. That's what makes this country beautiful. And that's why that's why I'm in this. You ask me, why am I in this? I care about reviving pride in that nation, because if we get into the habit of just bashing that country, what are we bashing? We're bashing the last best hope that man has for aspiring to those ideals. Tell me who else has done better. I'll wait.
I'll wait.
And I always love these black billionaires and millionaires who say that things aren't equal these days. Yeah, they're not. Oprah Winbag makes a lot more money than I do. My radio show was jerked out from under me. And I see all these people that are lying through their teeth that are making millions of dollars. I give you Al Sharpton, Joy Reid, Joy Behar, and right on down the line that are making millions and millions of dollars. And these black people these black activists and all are complaining that they don't have equality. Oh, please.
Well, and I think for me, Vivek, he just is really good at explaining things in a very plain way, a simplistic way that people can understand and they can relate to. And I also think, the fact that he's being called, like, he's saying that he has privilege. And one of the things that he did say was, I did have privilege. I had two parents in the home that loved me and that were religious and that cared about my education. Mm-hmm. So he's like, yes, I was privileged in that way, but it had nothing to do with, people are calling him a white supremacist. Shocker.
Yeah, really. And Charlemagne calls himself the God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where's equality there?
Yeah. Very interesting. But I did think he did a great job on that show. And our friend Steve said Vivek hit it out of the park in Iowa. And I 100% agree. He's doing a great job. And he is doing a grassroots campaign. He is not going to big donors, which I also think is interesting.
All right. Coming up next,
we're going to talk about the sound of freedom.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was that they had come to us, because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke. When I grow up, I want to be hired based on what I look like rather than my skills.
I want to be judged by my political beliefs.
I want to get promoted
based on my chromosomes. When I grow up, I want to be offended by my coworkers and walk around the office
on eggshells
and have my words policed
by HR. Words like
grandfather,
peanut gallery,
long time no see,
no can do.
When I grow up,
I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder.
Just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist. I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
Come join us today at Sweet Potato's Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Showing on half the screens of most of the blockbusters is The Sound of Freedom with Jim Caviezel. And it is doing better than the blockbusters. 82 million, at least I saw on Saturday. So I don't know how, we don't have the weekend numbers in yet. We'll have them tomorrow.
Yes. And, you know, the thing about this movie is it's powerful. It's very well done. Storytelling is probably one of the biggest things that can move people into action.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this movie twice. It is very powerful, and also experiencing it with other people, I think, is very impactful.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go to theaters immediately, if not sooner, to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, it's amazing that this is the Democrats and the media, but I repeat myself, seem to hate this movie because it is about child trafficking, and the Democrats as well. Once again, excuse my redundancy. But the producer was on because I watched Fox, so you don't have to. So Pete Hegseth on Fox Weekend yesterday, day before yesterday, on Saturday, talked with the producer about all the negative publicity that this movie is getting, and he ain't a happy camper about it.
And God bless Mexico, and God bless the children.
Sound of Freedom has roared into theaters, and as of Saturday was ranked #2 in the box office with a total of $82 million, just behind Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Joining us now, Sound of Freedom producer, Eduardo Verástegui. Thank you so much for being here, Eduardo. Did you expect Did you expect this kind of response? It has been a groundswell across America. Just react to what the last 2 weeks have been like with your amazing film.
Of course not. I mean, we spent 8 years of our lives in putting this movie together. And I never imagined, especially when you finished the film almost 3 years ago, and then you were knocking doors everywhere, and all the experts in Hollywood told us that this is not a good film for them, that nobody will go and see this film. So after 3 years of rejection, you have two options: either you give up or you don't give up, and we choose the second one. And after praying to God for a miracle to happen for this film, please send an angel to rescue this film. Angel Studios rescued this film, and because of them, millions of people are seeing this film in these 10 days. More than 5 million people show up in theaters, and I can't believe that this is happening. This is like, I feel like I'm dreaming. This is the American dream. I'm hugging the American dream right now. It's all glory to God. This is a miracle, but this is amazing. I mean, God. First of all, I want to say this. I am very grateful to this nation for opening the door to my dreams. This nation has been such an amazing blessing in my life. God bless America, and God bless Mexico, and God bless the children of the world that are suffering so much. And that's why I'm so happy and so grateful that this film is more than a movie. It's a movement, and it's growing, and no one can stop it. It's too late. No one can stop it. This is the people's movie.
I get chills hearing you. It was crowdsourced for the distribution. You've made far beyond what you raised to distribute it. Why has it caught on so much? I mean, you got to a little bit, but the movie was held up for many years. Do you think it was part of God's timing to say now's the time?
Oh, definitely. I was very sad because I wanted to come out in theaters 3 years ago, and it was not happening. And then maybe a year later, okay, this is the time now, and nothing happens. And of course, I was sad. My investors were calling me, Eduardo, what's going on? A lot of pressure from all my investors. I have a lot of investors, a lot of people that believe in this project, and now I'm responsible. I'm the producer. I'm calling Alejandro, the director, and he's calling me every day. What's going on? What's going on? And I'm just bleeding because I show the film to the people, and the people cry. The people, they stand ovations, but the experts are saying, no, this is not for us. So of course, you get confused because you don't know really what do you have in your hands. But you know what? when you are waking up every day and you know that you're using your talents, your projects to save lives, you know what? You can stay 20 years, 40 years for that one child, because that's the exercise that I do every day. I close my eyes every day in the morning. What if this is my son? What if my daughter is missing? What would I do? I will stop everything that I'm doing and I will give my life to find my child. Well, that's my motivation. I'm waking up every day to fight for children, to end child trafficking. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait for this tragedy to come to my life for me to wake up. I want to wake up now. When I met Tim Ballard 8 years ago and he gave me that information in details, what these kids are going through, man, I cannot look the other way around. I can be patient. And now that the people are showing up and they're, you know what is the best part? That our budget was like, I don't know, like $3 compared to Disney, Mission Impossible. But you know who is our posters and our billboards? The people. When they see the film, they videotape themselves, they share the review, they share their heart, and they share that video with everyone. And that's our posters. They are our billboards. They are the ambassadors of freedom. And because of them, this movie is flying so high that I don't even know if I'm dreaming anymore. I mean, this is amazing. I'm crying every day. I'm so grateful. But you know what? I think why this is touching so many hearts, because there's millions of people praying for this film. I believe in the power of prayer, and a lot of people are praying for this film, so this film can touch hearts, so this movie can put pressure in government. So government, once and for all, I hope that they will do something, because they have the power to end this, especially in America. You have the most powerful country in the world. You have the money, the technology, the army, the intelligence, everything. How come we don't finish this problem? Because it's not a priority. Well, not anymore. We put in pressure. You know, we were in Washington a week ago, and we're coming back to Washington to show the film to all the Congress on the 25th. And I hope that this film will touch their hearts, to this most important decision makers in the world, who are the senators and the Congress of this country. If we touch Washington, we touch the world, and child trafficking will be ended.
I know it is a movie that has the potential and is starting a movement. I know it's being screened by at one of Trump's properties as well. At the highest levels, people are seeing it, and it does have the chance to change people's hearts and minds, because it's based on a true story. Yet, Eduardo, the criticism from the media has been hard and fast and frankly cruel. Here's some examples, and these aren't even the worst. They're just the most recent. Here's the Washington Post saying QAnon and Sound of Freedom both rely on tired Hollywood tropes. Forbes says the adrenochrome conspiracy theory pushed by Sound of Freedom star explained. Rolling Stone, Sound of Freedom box office triumph for QAnon believers. What's your response to these headlines?
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You know, they should apologize to all these kids who were rescued. They should apologize to them. And they should apologize to all these people who rescued their lives to tell their story. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, what can I say? You know, I'm just so grateful. These guys are lying, but somehow, because of their lies, people are waking up. So they're helping us. I mean, the numbers are showing up that, you know, we're doing good. So whatever they're doing, hey, keep doing. Because of your lies, people who love truth, now they're responding. But you know, they should apologize, because it's not fair. These guys are lying. These are the mainstream liberal media who they don't care about children. They don't care about saving children. They don't care about anything. They care about just themselves. And perhaps maybe some of them, I don't know. I don't have the evidence. But it's really weird. It's suspicious that someone doesn't want this film to be seen by many. A film that is designed to save children, and they're blocking. Maybe they're involved in the crime. Maybe they are the pedophiles. Maybe this is the guys who are hurting these children. I don't know. You know, go figure.
You will be known by your enemies, and you have created a movie and quite a film that continues to be in theaters. Sound of Freedom is the name of the film. Eduardo Verástegui, thank you so much. Congratulations on a
God bless you. God bless you, and please keep praying for this film.
Amen to that. Okay, let's get there here to simonize our watches here, because Brittany, I'll tell you when the media and all is going to apologize for this. It's going to be exactly 30 minutes after hell freezes over.
Yeah, the thing is it does make you wonder why they don't want this film to be out there. I will say really quick before we go to break, the writer of this film, 3 months into writing this film, his father and brother were kidnapped and killed. And so he wrote this story with like a really heavy heart. And There's just so many elements of this that you should listen to all of the interviews, because it's so powerful what these people have gone through in order to have this movie made and released. So,
for sure. We'll talk more about it after the break, as a matter of fact, so stay real.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart, doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a ride. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Heading down the home stretch here for this Monday morning.
Yes, and we have a lot of people with us today, and I'm going to read some of the comments. Mary Hybreeder says everyone should see this movie, meaning The Sound of Freedom. Vicky Bradley says, it was great, very touching. I'm glad the word is getting out about this movie. People need to see it. I was on the grand jury here years ago, and we heard about child trafficking cases right here in Savannah. It does happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we're unfortunately in a prime location for that.
We broke up a huge ring about 10 years ago, over 100 arrests.
Yes, and our friend Steve Stanton Sr. says, hard movie to watch, like The Passion of the Christ, but we have to address this worldwide problem. And Mary also asked, why is this a political issue? It's about protecting all of our children.
Exactly.
That's why you have to question, what are the motives of them being so against this movie, especially when you look at, I don't know if you remember the big controversy over the Netflix film Cuties, about these little girls dressing very provocatively and dancing, versus this movie. And you look at Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have low scores for Sound of Freedom, high scores for Cuties, but the audience ratings are like the flip of that.
Exactly the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting.
Well, the first movie that brought Jim Caviezel to our attention was The Passion of the Christ, and I remember
it was The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, but he really got his recognition from Passion of the Christ, and the amazing thing was that Ann Coulter said at the time, when was the last time you remember Hollywood getting upset over a movie that made money? You have to ask yourself. And by the way, churches, get involved with this as well. Start promoting this to your parish. So let them know that this is a great flick that needs to be seen.
Yes, absolutely. And Tim Ballard, who the movie is set around, he was on the IRL podcast, which is Tim Pool's podcast out of West Virginia, and pretty amazing story coming from him, and how his wife played a huge role in him continuing to go after traffickers.
That's why you're here. But in the movie, Mira Sorvino, who plays my wife, Academy Award-winning, amazing actress, and it's one of my favorite lines in the film, because it's so powerful. It's much more powerful in real life. But she says, just quit your job and rescue those kids, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. But that's not what really happened. Okay, Eduardo and the team didn't want me to show the true cowardice that I actually manifested at this time in late 2013, because it was my idea. I said, well, Catherine, if I come home, it's over. But I keep my job. I have to quit my job to do this. I was calling the DHS ethics office. Can I do both? Like, no, you can't do both. You can't moonlight. You got to quit, or do the case. And she said, and so her line was supposed to be, well, get your butt home, because we got 6 kids and we have no money. Like we have a couple thousand, stocked away, stocked away in the bank or something. And she didn't say that. She didn't say that. She said, could you save the kids if you stayed there? I said, yes. She's like, why? It was almost like embarrassing. Like, why are you even asking me this question?
Wow.
She said, we have a meeting with our maker. We will be dead in 50 years anyway. She said, I don't care if we live in a tent. These are exactly her words. I don't care if we're in a tent, because we lose our house. You have to do this. You have to try. And I fought back like a coward. Like, are you kidding me? What about my own kids? I got to take care of my own 6 kids. Like, they'll be fine. She finally got to the point where she just gave it to me in one line that didn't make it in the movie, because, again, it would have manifested my cowardice. But one line this is verbatim. It ended the debate. It shook me to my core, because she's usually very sweet. And she said, and this is a quote, I will not let you jeopardize my salvation. What? By not doing.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Where are you going to spend eternity, kid?
Yeah, well, his wife is, such an incredible person to, for what his job was at that time, and for him to be away as much as he was, and they have 6 kids. Pretty incredible woman to say, you know what, you're not going to jeopardize my salvation. You're going to do this. Yeah. So he's a pretty incredible person, and his wife is no exception. So he goes on to also talk about how Mel Gibson called him and asked him to get involved with, when the war broke out in Ukraine, him going and saving those kids. And I guess he talks about his wife in such an endearing way, but he says, my wife is very reasonable. And then, when she's being irrational, I know it's God, because she said, you have to go get these children out of Ukraine. And he's like, well, we'll have the people that normally do this for our foundation do it. She's like, no, you have to go. And he's like, okay. So he ended up going to Ukraine. He talks a lot about that in the new Mel Gibson documentary that's going to come out later this year. But I think there's going to be a heavy spotlight on this human trafficking. And I hope that the Biden administration feels the heat from this, because they're complicit in what's going on. And our taxpayer money is funding child trafficking. I have a huge problem with that.
Yeah, we got a huge problem with a lot of the things we're spending our money on when we could be spending it on positive things, spending on things that actually work. We were talking earlier about the fact that we're running out of ammunition for the military. Do you think that this is how well this is going over in Beijing right now, or Moscow? How excited are the Chinese as they are sharpening their talons to get to Formosa, that they call it, that we call Taiwan, and losing Taiwan would be a major blow to the economy of this world.
Well, and that's the thing, Bill. They're doing whatever they want. They know that we're not going to do anything. If you think that Russia and China and all of these places don't understand what our administration is doing to this country, they understand that they're not following our Constitution. They know it better than most of the citizens in this country. They know that they can do whatever they want, and they're not going to get any pushback.
Well, the Biden crime syndicate is on the payroll of Beijing and the CCP.
They absolutely are.
Communist Chinese Party.
Yes. And,
this is treason.
Well, and over the weekend, we continue to hear Ukraine will get whatever they need for as long as it takes.
Mm-hmm.
We're
involved in another quagmire?
Well, that's the other thing. They have never come to Congress and said, hey, we're involved in this war. We need to get approval to get all of this spending approved. They're just doing it under some other, we're just helping these people out. They just need the money.
Mm-hmm.
They need weapons. We gotta do it.
Mm-hmm. We need weapons too. And we need ammunition.
Well, why are we calling 3,000 of our own reserves out to go to Europe to die for something that has nothing to do with us?
Good question.
And the American people should be outraged that this is happening. But it's not getting enough attention, Bill, this whole 3,000 people coming out of the reserves. It's a huge deal. They have never come to Congress and said what we are going to do and what their plan is. There should be no money going to Ukraine. There should be no troops in Europe right now. I don't know. I'm very frustrated by this situation, and I'm not really sure how we're going to get out of it.
No, and that's the problem. And you would have thought we would have learned our lesson from Vietnam, but we didn't. And then you'd have thought we'd have learned our lesson from the war in the Middle East. That this is and just pulling out of there just willy-nilly was the biggest mistake we ever made, and it shows our weakness. And when you see what's happened with the Biden crime syndicate, of whose payroll they're really on, and all these millions of dollars that they're getting, and the news media sitting there saying, well, we don't have any proof of that.
Uh-huh.
We don't? We've got more proof of that than Perry Mason had in any of his episodes where he won every case.
Well, and Mary Hybrider says, I thought this was a constitutional republic. The people did not vote for this. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Also, Lizzie Warren says, Biden doesn't need no stinking constitution.
That's right. Constitution? We don't need no stinking constitution.
Yeah, and I think that this is, I think it's going to escalate. We're probably going to see some things unfold this week. We'll continue to talk about it on the show. But stay tuned this week. We'll have Beth in and Beth Mageroni and talk about the Board of Elections as well as the Board of Education here. So thanks for tuning in. Remember to listen, like, and follow our podcast. Also, big shout out to Sweet Potatoes and Bernard Williams, who are our main sponsors for our show. So we want to thank them. So if you have the opportunity to use any of their services or go out to eat at Sweet Potatoes, do it.
And remember, Travis Chance of CFG Wealth Management says that if you tell him that you heard it here, then you get a 20-minute session with him on no sales pitch or anything else, just about investing.
So make sure you support those people because they're supporting us, and that's how we're able to come to you every day. So thanks for tuning in.
Yep. We'll see you again tomorrow.